Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you just a quick and easy way to set up TypeScript for practice. Setting up TypeScript can be very involved. There are a lot of options and configurations and things like that you can get into. And that's kind of the purpose of this tutorial, is just to show you how to set up a TypeScript project so that you can do that. You can get in there and mess around with things and see what happens. And then if you do happen to mess it up, you can just nuke it and start over. So just want to show you real quick how to set up TypeScript for practicing. So I created a folder, called it TypeScript Practice, and opened Visual Studio Code in that folder. And the first thing we want to do is actually install TypeScript. So we'll run npm install, and we're going to save it as a dev dependency. If you do -- save dev, it's saving as a dev dependency, but you can just do -D and it's the same thing. And TypeScript. So that will create a package.json file, and node modules will have TypeScript in it and a bin directory. And the bin directory has the TSC program in it, which is the command line tool that we're going to use. So we can run this. You have to actually tell your terminal where it is, but we'll use TSC to actually initialize the TypeScript project. So you can run it doing like straight from node modules.bin TSC and then -- init, and that will create a tsconfig.json file for you. So we can delete this. And the other way you can do that is, instead of telling it the path to the binary, you can just run npx tsc -- init, and that will do the same exact thing. So it's just a shortcut. Npx makes it so you don't have to point straight to the executable file. And then you get this tsconfig.json, and it has some settings already set for you by default. And just to make those easier to see, I will just move them to the top of the file. So we have our target is ES5. That's the JavaScript version. ES5 is kind of the old JavaScript before it started getting regular updates. And it's pretty much compatible with everything. So everything understands old JavaScript and has been made to understand newer JavaScript on top of old JavaScript. Modules are common JS, so that's that's the old require instead of import. Just how you get your dependencies, you would have to do const path equals require path instead of import path from path. Strict mode, again, strict type checking or strict JS, which was part of old ES5. The ES module interop is, kind of the import statements, making them all compatible and all that good stuff. Skip libcheck. There are type declaration files, so they're .d.ts files, and we don't need to type check those because that's where the types live. Force consistent casing and file names, that's a default option, and something that makes it so that when you're importing a class, you're not doing it in different ways across different files. And yeah, it helps for refactoring and making things more maintainable. So those are the default settings that come with TypeScript. Again, definitely go to the website and read more about it. Dig into all these options, see what you're interested in, see what matters to you. The two here that aren't set the way we want them to be by default are the outdir and the rootdir. So these two are important to us because the outdir is where our compiled JS files are going to go, and we're going to put that into the dist folder. So when we compile our TypeScript, it will become JavaScript, and it will be stored in a folder named dist, and we are going to keep our TypeScript separate from that, and it will live in the source folder. If you don't change those, then your JavaScript files will live right next to their TypeScript counterparts inside the same folder. And for bigger projects, that can be messy, and it's just better to separate them from the get-go. So those are the only settings we're actually going to change from the defaults. And that is basically how you set up tsconfig. Now, like I said before, there's a ton of other stuff in here, and I'm not going to dig into all of it. That's for you to go ahead and practice on. But yeah, there's a ton of other stuff in here that you, depending on the size of your project and what you're using, you will have to change some of these. They will matter to you. Even these defaults up here, you'll have to change some of those. But we're not going to dig into that in this video. I just want to show you how to get it all set up. So the next thing we want to do is create a folder called source. And we want to put a index.ts file inside of there. And then we're just going to do a simple hello world, but I guess it's a little bit more advanced. We're going to do a class and name it hello. And then it can have a constructor. Constructor doesn't really do anything. And then you can have let's see, we'll have a method named say hello, and it will have a return type of void. So that's some TypeScript stuff. What is all this erroring? Oh, hello doesn't need the parentheses. Yep, okay. So say hello will just be console.log and hello world. And then down here we'll do const app equals new hello. So I'll just create an instance of that class, and then we'll do app.say hello. And that's our program. All right. So now we want to compile this because it is TypeScript, and this is really the only TypeScripty thing about it. But yeah, so we're going to compile this. It'll become JavaScript, and then it'll run. So we're going to first, we need to create scripts in our package JSON. One of the scripts will be a build. And we're going to use TSC to build our TypeScript. One kind of issue that people run into is that it's tempting to specify your file here. So index.ts, and then we'll do a start. And start will just be node running. We'll do dist index.js. So now when we run this build script, well, let's just run it. We'll do npm run build. And look what happened. So we are expecting our out there to be dist, right? We're expecting this index.js to have gone into a dist folder. And this kind of hangs people up sometimes because they're like, why isn't it paying attention to my tsconfig? Well, what happens here is you specified a command line parameter for TSC, and so that kind of erased all the default command line parameters. So if you run TSC without specifying anything, it will say, I don't have any command line parameters. Let me look for a config file. So it will, like, you can tell it to look for the config file, but if you don't specify any parameters, it will take all of its information from the config file. So it did compile the TypeScript and the JavaScript. It just didn't pay attention to any of your configuration in there. So if we delete the JavaScript file, we save our package JSON, so it's just running TSC with no parameters, and we build again. This time we get the dist file, and the index.js is now everything is following the tsconfig. So if that gets you, just run TSC by itself, right? And let the config file tell it everything it needs to know. So yeah, that's our program actually that will execute. So we don't actually run TypeScript code in in any environment. It doesn't run in the browser. It doesn't run on Node. It's what we write, and then TypeScript converts it into JavaScript, and that's what actually runs in the browser or in Node. So this is the file that is actually going to run and execute and do all the stuff down here in the command. So yeah, TypeScript is just what we're writing, and then that's transpiled into actual JavaScript that is going to execute. So now we need to run npm start, and that ran this code, and it says hello. So that's the basics of TypeScript. Again, I like to add nodemon, so I'll add watch, and I'll say nodemon -ets in the source folder, and then -x, and I'm gonna give it I'll give it two commands here. So I'm gonna run npm run build, and is kind of a way to say after the npm run build is done, then run this next command. So it's npm start. So it'll run both of them in sequence. And then of course we need to install nodemon. So we'll do npm i-d nodemon. And so TSC has a watch flag. You can do TSC-w and it'll watch, but all it does is build. It doesn't actually run your code. So you'll get the dist folder will get updated, but your npm start won't run again. So we're just using nodemon to do both of those. And so I have a conflict. I was editing my package.json and I installed something, and now there's a conflict. So let's just I'll copy and paste that. I'll close without saving, and then open my package.json again, and the script that I want is the watch script. Everything else can go away. Yep. If you have a big package.json, it's probably a little bit more involved than that. You might just copy and paste the line that you were on, but yeah, quick and easy way to solve that problem. It happens. And now we can also, I'll just npm install rxjs. So we will look at using rxjs. So I'm going to take this one level deeper and do, let's do public name equals new behavior subject string, and we'll give it world. So behavior subject is a kind of observable, and we'll just turn it into an observable here. We'll do get name, and we'll do private because that's kind of a TypeScript thing. And it will return an observable string, and we will just return this .name .as observable. So now we have a behavior subject that will kind of give us observables that will update as it's changed, and we're getting it as an observable so that it's, it has all the observable things like pipes and stuff ready to go when we use it. And then say hello, we will just we'll do this get name and subscribe to it, and then that'll give us the name, and we will just change these to backticks so that we get the string template. And now whenever we set the name, it will automatically say hello. So we'll create a function. I'm trying to throw some TypeScripty stuff in here and show you different things. So, there's an access modifier here. It's public. It's just by default that it's always public. You can specify it as being public. Constructors don't get access modifiers. So that access modifier is either public or private or protected. Again, that's a TypeScript thing, not really a JavaScript thing. JavaScript doesn't have private variables per se, at least not yet. So we will set name, which is a string, doesn't do anything, so it's void, or it doesn't return anything, so it's void. And then we will do this .name.next is name. So now whenever we can do app.setName and give it a name, and it should, so now we'll run npm run watch. You can see everything kind of works, right? So we have a behavior subject that takes in changes, and as those changes occur, we have a subscription that listens for them and runs a function whenever they occur. This get name is just returning the behavior subject as an observable so that you can do observable type stuff on it. Set name is just a way for us to update our behavior subject so that the subscription will fire. And so as it runs, we are setting the name, so the next name triggers the subscription to run, which triggers hello. So we get hello world because that's the default or first value, and then Ted, and then Fred, and those all come out. And it's all being watched by NodeMon, so it runs automatically. So the more times you do this, the more times it's going to just automatically restart for you. And it just works. So now you know how to set up TypeScript. Like I said, there's a million different configurations, or it seems like a million. And it's real easy. The package JSON is super simple. And then your index.ts, you can expand this out, create many files, different folders, do different stuff, import different libraries. One thing that you might run into is if you're importing a library that doesn't have its type definitions included, you will have to install the types. So you would have to do like npm i-d and then @types/rxjs, right? So rxjs comes with its types built in. So behavior subject, observable, those things are built into the original package. But if they're not, there's some libraries that they're not, and you have to tell TypeScript specifically to load the TypeScript types, right? So you'd have to do the @type/ whatever the project name is. So if you installed those, then TypeScript would be able to recognize whatever those specialized types are. But other than that, that's pretty much it. This video went a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you are able to go ahead, get a TypeScript environment set up, and be able to practice. So good luck with that, and hope it works for you.